Imagine walking into a room and your reputation arrives 10 seconds before you do. That's the power of personal branding. It's not about self-promotion, it's about self-definition. In this masterclass, we'll peel back the layers of how powerful personal brands are built, not by luck or loudness, but through clarity, consistency, and credibility. You'll learn how to position your name as a story that inspires trust, attracts opportunities, and creates lasting influence in your field. Because in a world overflowing with noise, your brand is the signal that gets remembered. Jeff Bezos once said, "Your brand is what people say about you when you're not there." Personal branding isn't vanity, it's clarity. It's not about fabricating an image, but about defining your value and expressing it intentionally. Think of it as reputation by design rather than by default. Take Oprah Winfrey, for example. Her personal brand, rooted in empathy, authenticity, and transformation, has outlived her talk show, her network, and even trends. She doesn't sell products, she sells a belief system, self-betterment through awareness. That's the power of a coherent, compelling, and differentiated personal brand. Branding expert William Arruda, in his book Career Distinction, defines personal branding as the process of identifying and communicating the unique combination of skills, experiences, and personality that make you who you are. It's your personal value proposition. But unlike a company brand, you are the product. And the market, it's made up of everyone you interact with, your colleagues, clients, followers, or even the people who discover your LinkedIn profile. A powerful personal brand checks 4 boxes. 1. Accurate. Truth builds trust. Your brand must reflect your real self, not your filtered self. If you present yourself as something you're not, the facade will eventually crack. Brené Brown's work on vulnerability proves that authenticity is magnetic. People trust real, imperfect humans far more than polished personas. 2. Coherent. One story, one signal. If your social media screams creativity, but your work interactions say rigidity, there's dissonance. Great brands, personal or corporate, maintain message harmony. Think of Richard Branson. Whether he's in a hot air balloon or on LinkedIn, his message of bold adventure never wavers. 3rd, compelling. It has to make people care. A brand that doesn't evoke emotion is forgettable. Simon Sinek's Start With Why reminds us that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Your personal brand must tell a story that stirs curiosity and connection. 4th, differentiated, stand out, don't blend in. In Seth Godin's Purple Cow, he explains that being remarkable isn't about being louder, it's about being different enough to be remembered. Your special sauce might be your voice, your empathy, or your unconventional background, whatever makes you unmistakably you. Here's the hard truth. If you don't define your personal brand, someone else will. Every interaction, your tone in emails, your LinkedIn posts, your attire in meetings, feeds the collective perception of who you are. Personal branding is not about self-promotion. It's about self-expression with purpose. It's your reputation, your promise, and your story, woven together with clarity and intention. To borrow from Tom Peters' iconic essay, The Brand Called You, you're not defined by your job title, you're defined by what you do that adds value, by how you stand out. So ask yourself, if your name were a brand, what would it stand for? And more importantly, is that the story the world is already hearing? Let's start with a truth bomb. In today's world, you're not just competing for jobs or clients, you're competing for attention. Whether you're a professional in a corner office or a consultant working from your kitchen table, your personal brand is what determines who notices you, who trusts you, and ultimately, who chooses you. Once upon a time, you could quietly do great work and expect recognition to follow. That world doesn't exist anymore. We now live in what author Daniel Pink calls the conceptual age, where success is no longer about what you know, but how you package and communicate what you know. Think of personal branding as your career operating system. It powers visibility, credibility, and influence. When built intentionally, it transforms you from just another name on a resume to a recognizable authority in your field. For working professionals, your brand is your promotion engine. If you're a working professional, your personal brand is your silent advocate in every room you're not in. It's what gets you noticed by headhunters scrolling LinkedIn at midnight, by decision makers discussing promotions behind closed doors, and by industry peers looking for speakers, mentors, or collaborators. A strong personal brand says, "Here's who I am, what I stand for, and why I matter." Let's take an example. Imagine Ananya, a marketing manager known for combining creativity with analytics. Her posts on LinkedIn don't just talk about ad campaigns. They break down real business results and lessons learned. She's not bragging, she's teaching. Within a year, she's invited to speak at a digital marketing summit, gets featured in a trade magazine, and lands a promotion. That's the power of strategic visibility. You're not chasing opportunities, they're chasing you. For consultants and independent experts, your brand is your marketing. If you're an independent professional, say a consultant, designer, or coach, your brand isn't just your reputation, it's your currency. People don't hire consultants, they hire trust. And trust is built when your audience consistently sees your expertise, integrity, and results on display. Branding expert Dory Clark, in her book Stand Out, explains that personal branding helps you become a recognized expert in your field, not just another voice in the crowd. It's what makes clients choose you over cheaper alternatives, because your brand signals value, reliability, and distinction. For instance, think of a leadership coach who blends neuroscience and storytelling in her coaching model. She regularly shares insights about emotional intelligence, narrates transformation stories, and engages audiences with practical takeaways. Over time, she becomes known for her scientific storytelling approach, and that's what clients start seeking her for. That's how personal branding converts reputation into revenue. And there are the internal benefits. It changes you too. The beautiful irony of personal branding is that while it's outward-facing, it transforms you from the inside out. You gain clarity. When you define your brand, you're forced to ask, who am I? What do I stand for? That self-awareness helps align your career and personal life with your authentic values. You feel confident. Once you know your story, you stop comparing yourself to others. You operate from purpose, not pressure. You beat imposter syndrome. By articulating your unique value, you no longer feel like a fraud. You start seeing evidence of your worth everywhere you show up, and here is the bigger picture. Why you should consider yourself a brand. In a hyper-connected, algorithm-driven world, invisibility is the new irrelevance. You may be the best coder, lawyer, or strategist in the room, but if no one knows it, it doesn't matter. As marketing expert Seth Godin puts it, the only way to be indispensable is to be remarkable. Personal branding helps you become that remarkable. Not because you shout the loudest, but because you stand for something clear, consistent, and valuable. Therefore, it's no longer optional. It's professional survival. Let's break this down conversationally, because building your personal brand isn't a weekend project. It's a lifelong asset that grows with you. Think of it like gardening. You don't just plant your seeds and walk away. You nurture, prune, and water it consistently until it blooms into something unmistakably yours. There's a simple, structured way to start shaping your personal brand. And it all begins with 6 powerful steps. Here's the roadmap. 1. Define your purpose. Get crystal clear on what drives you and what you stand for. 2. Audit your personal brand equity. Understand how others currently perceive you. Know where you want to be, your branding goals, and the equity you want to build. Understand the gap between the two and close the gap. 3. Build your story. Craft a narrative that connects your purpose to your audience. 4. Communicate and embody your brand. Align your words, actions, and presence with your message. 5. Go social. Share your insights, values, and journey across platforms where your audience lives. Sixth, reevaluate and adjust, refine, evolve, and stay relevant as you grow. Now, let's unpack each of these steps in detail and see how you can bring your personal brand to life authentically and strategically. First, define your purpose, the compass of your brand. If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. That's why your first step is to define your purpose. The very first step in building your personal brand begins with clarity, understanding who you are, what drives you, and what you stand for. Before you can influence how others see you, you must first define how you see yourself. Start by asking a few deep, revealing questions. What do I truly care about? What lights me up, and what do I want to dedicate my energy to? What are my core values? These are your non-negotiables, the principles you'll never trade for convenience or comfort. They're the foundation of your brand's integrity. What do I want to be known for? Think of this as your personal tagline or positioning message. What's the message or impression you want to leave behind in every room you enter? How would I describe myself? List the adjectives that capture your personality: authentic, analytical, empathetic, bold, creative, or disciplined. These words will shape the tone and texture of your brand. What makes me different? Identify your unfair advantage, that unique blend of skills, life experiences, perspectives, and strengths that no one else has. How do I create value for others? Consider how your natural talents translate into results, transformation, or inspiration for the people you serve. When brainstorming, think about both your professional and personal dimensions. Who are you trying to reach? Colleagues, clients, or a community? What type of people or industries would genuinely benefit from your expertise, your story, and your energy? Once you've reflected on these questions, craft a simple, powerful statement that captures your essence, your value proposition, which acts like your new identity. For example, I'm a leadership coach who helps emerging managers build confidence and emotional intelligence so they can lead with clarity and heart. Experiment with a few variations until one feels completely authentic, something that feels less like a resume line and more like your truth distilled into a single sentence. That one statement will become the foundation on which the rest of your personal brand stands. The key is in defining your brand identity, believing in it, and projecting it to the outer world. 2. Audit your personal brand equity. See yourself the way the world sees you. Here's the thing, you already have a personal brand, whether you've built it intentionally or not. The question is, what story is it telling right now? Every interaction, social post, meeting, or Google result has quietly been shaping how others perceive you. It's your reputation in motion. So before you reinvent or amplify your brand, you need to understand what's already out there. This is where a personal brand audit comes in. Think of this like standing in front of a mirror, except it's not just your reflection staring back. It's your colleagues, your clients, your mentors, and even search engines. Harvard Business Review researchers Jill Avery and Susan Fournier describe this process as evaluating your personal brand equity, the sum total of your credentials, social capital, and cultural capital that forms your reputation. Let's unpack those. First, credentials, your proof of competence. This is your professional credibility, your education, awards, certifications, achievements, and career milestones. It's what says, I've done the work. I know my craft. For instance, think of Satya Nadella before he became Microsoft's CEO. His technical background, education, and leadership in cloud computing were the credentials that established his authority long before the title followed. Ask yourself, what tangible evidence of excellence do I already have? Do my online profiles, resume, and bios clearly highlight them? Where are the gaps that need strengthening? Skills, recognition, or visibility? Your credentials are the bedrock of trust. But remember, trust isn't built on paper, it's demonstrated in presence. Second, social capital. Your network is your net worth. William Arruda, the personal branding pioneer, often says, your network is your brand. Your social capital includes the relationships, connections, and communities that shape your professional visibility. It's not just who you know, but who knows you, trusts you, and advocates for you. In today's digital age, this extends to your LinkedIn followers, podcast listeners, or people who engage with your thought leadership. Your mentions on blogs, collaborations, and even your SEO visibility are part of this invisible currency. Think of it like compound interest. The more you nurture genuine relationships, the greater your brand equity grows over time. So ask, who are my top advocates and allies? Am I engaging with my professional community regularly? Does my online presence reflect the value I add to others? Because in the age of information overload, visibility without credibility is just noise. But credibility amplified by visibility is power. Third, cultural capital, the human side of your brand. Here's where most professionals miss the mark. Cultural capital is your emotional intelligence, life experience, and perspective. It's what makes you relatable and resonant. Author Brené Brown calls this the courage to show up fully human. Your empathy, your ability to connect, your worldview shaped by challenges and triumphs, all of these deepen the trust in your brand. Let's say you're a financial advisor who grew up in a middle-class family, watched your parents struggle with saving, and now teach families how to build wealth with compassion. That's cultural capital. It humanizes your expertise. Ask yourself, what life lessons or experiences have shaped my worldview? How do I integrate empathy and authenticity into my brand story? What personal qualities make me stand out beyond my resume? The next important step in your brand audit is identifying the brand gap, where you are versus where you want to be. Once you've mapped your current brand equity, step back and imagine where you want your brand to be a year or even 5 years from now. Ask, how do I want to be perceived by my peers, my clients, or my industry? What do I want to be known for, not just known as? What needs to change for me to close that gap? That gap is your growth blueprint. Maybe you want to go from dependable team player to innovative thought leader. That shift might require building stronger visibility, publishing your ideas, collaborating with influencers, or developing niche expertise. This is how brands, personal or corporate, evolve. Apple didn't become iconic overnight. It kept auditing its identity, design, and story until it became synonymous with innovation and elegance. You're doing the same, strategically for yourself. How to conduct a personal brand audit, a simple framework. Here's a practical roadmap to audit your brand effectively. 1. Google yourself. See what appears on the first 2 pages. Is that how you want to be seen? Second, review your digital presence. Check your LinkedIn, Instagram, website, and bios for consistency in tone, visuals, and messaging. Third, ask for feedback. Request 360-degree input from peers, mentors, and clients. How would they describe you in 3 words? Fourth, assess content alignment. Does what you post or say reflect your values and purpose? 5, evaluate your network. Are you surrounded by people who challenge and elevate you? Sixth, identify gaps and opportunities. Create a short-term 1-year and long-term 5-year plan to strengthen weak areas. Auditing your personal brand is like running diagnostics before fine-tuning a high-performance engine. You can't accelerate toward your goals without knowing what's under the hood. By evaluating your credentials, social capital, and cultural capital, you gain a clear picture of your current brand and a strategy for your future one. Because before you can build the brand you want, you must understand the brand you already have. Third, build a story. Turn your personal brand into an emotionally charged narrative. Here's a timeless truth. Facts tell, but stories sell. And when it comes to personal branding, your story isn't just what happened to you. It's how you make people feel when they hear it. You can have the sharpest resume, the most polished LinkedIn bio, or the finest credentials. But what people truly remember is the story behind your success, how you got there, what you overcame, and why it mattered. Here is why stories matter in personal branding. Human beings are wired for storytelling. Neuroscientists have found that when we hear stories, our brains release oxytocin, the empathy chemical. It's what makes us lean in, relate, and remember. As branding expert Donald Miller puts it in Building a Story Brand, your audience is the hero. You're the guide who helps them win. In personal branding, that means your story should show, not tell, your audience how your journey, expertise, and purpose can serve them. Your story is proof of your promise. Once you've defined your purpose and audited your current brand, the next step is to bring it to life through stories that prove your value. Think of it this way. Your purpose is the theory. Your story is the evidence. If one of your differentiators is courage, don't just say you're bold, show it through a story that makes people feel it. For instance, maybe you once championed a new project idea your company was hesitant to try. You risked your credibility, but your calculated gamble paid off, leading to a breakthrough. That's your story of boldness and resilience. It's just like the analogy of an athlete training for years before the Olympics. You might see the medal, but the real story is in the early mornings, failures and comebacks that built the champion. Here is how you can craft your brand stories. To build a story bank, start by reflecting on key experiences that shaped you, moments that revealed your strengths. Did you step up when no one else did? Solve a complex problem? Build a team from scratch? Moments that shifted your thinking? Maybe it was a mentor's advice, a mistake that humbled you, or an unexpected success that redefined your approach. Moments of adversity. Your setbacks are gold for storytelling. As Joseph Campbell's hero's journey teaches us, every hero faces challenges, overcomes them, and returns wiser. Sharing how you turned your scar into a star humanizes you. It shows courage and growth. For example, Howard Schultz often shares his childhood story of growing up in a poor Brooklyn neighborhood as the seed for his empathy-driven leadership at Starbucks. His narrative isn't about coffee. It's about connection and dignity. Or consider Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx. Her story of starting with $5,000 in savings and getting rejected by countless manufacturers before becoming a billionaire brand icon isn't just inspiring. It's a branding masterclass in persistence and ingenuity. Now, there are different types of stories that can strengthen your brand. Depending on your professional role, you can craft stories in different contexts. Founder story. Why did you start what you started? What problem were you trying to solve? Customer story. What transformation did your work create for someone else? Problem-solving story. When did you innovate, lead, or collaborate to fix something no one else could? Turning point. Story. What event changed how you see your work or life? Each of these reveals a dimension of your value proposition: creativity, resilience, empathy, leadership, or innovation. You can follow some practical steps to build your story library. Here is the food for thoughts. 1. List 10 defining moments, times you learned, failed, grew, or succeeded. 2. Identify the emotion behind each story: pride, fear, joy, relief, curiosity, courage. 3. Extract the lesson. What does this story teach about your character or your craft? 4. Adapt your stories for different contexts: an interview, a keynote, a LinkedIn post, or a pitch. 5. Practice narrating them naturally. You don't want to recite them. You want to relive them. Every strong personal brand has a powerful story at its heart. Your story is your signature of authenticity. It's what separates you from the noise and makes people root for you. Remember, Apple's brand wasn't built on features. It was built on the story of challenging the status quo. Nike isn't just about shoes, it's about the story of human potential. Just do it. Likewise, your brand is not about titles or skills. It's about why you do, what you've learned along the way, and how your journey adds value to others. So go back through your life and career, gather your stories, polish them, and the next time someone asks, "Tell me about yourself," you won't just give them a summary, you'll give them a story worth remembering. 4th, communicate and embody your brand. Let the world see what you stand for. You've defined your purpose, audited where you are, and built your story. Now comes the part where your personal brand steps into the spotlight. Because no matter how brilliant your story is, it can't influence anyone if it stays locked inside your head or hidden in your laptop. In the words of marketing legend Seth Godin, if you don't share your story, someone else will tell it for you, and they won't tell it the way you want. Communicating your brand is like marketing a product, except the product is you. Think of yourself as both the brand strategist and the product. Just like companies use marketing channels to reach customers, you can use different forms of media to make your expertise, ideas, and personality visible to the right audience. In traditional marketing, this is called the media mix, which includes paid, owned, and earned media. Let's see how that applies to personal branding. 1. Paid media. Invest in visibility. Paid media includes anything you spend money on to increase exposure. Ads, PR stories, sponsored posts, personal websites, or speaking opportunities you invest in. For instance, a consultant might promote a thought leadership article on LinkedIn or sponsor a webinar to reach decision makers. It's not vanity, it's strategy. Think of it as fueling the engine of visibility. When done right, paid visibility creates a multiplier effect. You're not buying attention, you're investing in awareness that leads to influence and opportunities. Second, owned media, your digital real estate owned media, is what you control completely. Your LinkedIn profile, your blog, your YouTube channel, or your podcast. This is where your authentic voice lives. William Arruda, in his book Digital You, emphasizes the importance of owning your narrative. Your website, your videos, your articles, they are the storefronts of your brand. Start small. Publish reflections on your professional journey. Share lessons from your projects. Record short videos on topics you care about. These aren't just posts, they're breadcrumbs of your value that help people find and understand you. Third, earned media, when others talk about you. This is the credibility you can't buy. Press mentions, podcast interviews, guest articles, testimonials, or even word-of-mouth recommendations. When your audience, peers, or clients start endorsing your work, your brand gains a halo of trust. Think of this as your reputation echo. For example, author and speaker Brené Brown didn't build her global brand by advertising. It grew through earned media. Her TED Talk on vulnerability resonated so deeply that people shared it organically, turning her into a household name. Embody your brand in everyday life. Here's the thing, branding doesn't stop at your digital presence. Your real-world interactions are where your brand either comes alive or falls flat. Every conversation, meeting, and casual exchange is an opportunity to reflect your values. If your brand stands for creativity, bring new ideas to discussions. If it stands for empathy, listen deeply and respond thoughtfully. If it's about leadership, take initiative even when it's inconvenient. A personal brand isn't a logo, it's a living behavior system. Imagine this. A coworker asks how your weekend was. Instead of a flat good, you say, I volunteered at a youth center. It's something I do often. Helping young people gain confidence really energizes me. That's not self-promotion. It's authentic storytelling through everyday moments. Show, don't tell. Social media is your stage. Your online presence should feel like an open diary of your evolution, not a highlight reel. Share your learnings, your work in progress moments, your insights, and even your failures. Gary Vaynerchuk famously said, document, don't create. People connect more with your process than your perfection. For example, if you're an engineer building leadership skills, post about what you're learning from a recent management course or a team challenge. This not only adds credibility, but signals growth and self-awareness, two traits that every leader respects. Your brand is a journey, not a destination. A personal brand is never static. It's a story in motion. Just like companies evolve their products and messaging, your brand will evolve as you grow, learn, and adapt. The late branding scholar David Aker often said that great brands are living assets. The same applies to you. Every new skill you develop, every challenge you overcome, and every idea you share adds a new chapter to your personal brand story. People love a growth story because it mirrors their own journey. So, communicate your evolution. Share what you're learning. Celebrate your milestones. Reflect on what's changing in your perspective. The more open you are about your process, the more relatable and trustworthy your brand becomes. Communication isn't just about broadcasting your brand, it's about embodying it. It's about showing up, speaking up, and sharing stories that prove your purpose in action. Use every medium, digital, verbal, or visual, to amplify your message. Let people see you learning, evolving, and contributing, because ultimately, a personal brand isn't built by slogans, it's built by consistent signals. So make sure what they're saying reflects the truest, boldest, and most purposeful version of you. Fifth, go social. Turning your brand into a movement. Here's the truth. your personal brand doesn't live in isolation. It breathes in connection. It grows not in silence, but through conversations, communities, and shared energy. As marketing expert Seth Godin said in Tribes, people don't buy goods and services. They buy stories, relationships, and magic. Your goal isn't just to build a brand, it's to build a tribe that believes in what you stand for. The power of social capital. Once you've crafted your brand and defined your story, the next step is to make sure the world hears it, and more importantly, shares it. In the Harvard Business Review, Avery and Greenwald identify 4 powerful groups that can help socialize your brand. Think of them as the 4 amplifiers of your message. 1. Gatekeepers, the decision makers whose approval can open doors for you. These might be recruiters, investors, or industry leaders who can validate your credibility. Example, if you're a creative strategist, a senior agency partner could be your gatekeeper, the person who decides if your work gets seen by global clients. Second, influencers, the voices with reach and authority who can give your brand a platform. Collaborate, guest post, or engage with them thoughtfully. Think of how emerging speakers tag established thought leaders like Simon Sinek or Dory Clark to build authentic visibility in leadership circles. Look at the titans in your industry and stand on their shoulders. Third, promoters, your cheerleaders and advocates, the colleagues, clients, or friends who share your work because they believe in it. Author Daniel Priestley, in Key Person of Influence, calls these your 100 true fans, the first wave of believers who multiply your reach. Fourth, communities, groups of people who share your mission, values, or expertise. These could be online forums, LinkedIn groups, or mastermind circles where your voice and message resonate. For instance, a sustainability coach might build a LinkedIn group around eco-conscious entrepreneurship where people share ideas, resources, and wins. These 4 groups form the ecosystem that gives your personal brand momentum. The social side of branding is building your tribe. Remember, branding at its heart is social. No great personal brand has ever succeeded without a community that echoes its voice. Look at Marie Forleo, whose personal brand around creative entrepreneurship thrives because of her global tribe. People who not only consume her content but carry her message forward. Or take Gary Vaynerchuk. His brand isn't just about marketing, it's about energy, hustle, and authenticity, reinforced daily by his loyal audience who engage, share, and amplify his ideas. When you build a tribe that believes in your purpose, your message starts spreading organically. You go from being a brand to becoming a movement. Your content is your bridge. Now let's talk about how to make your brand visible and valuable through social media, the most powerful amplifier of our time. Think of your social presence as your personal media company. You don't just post for likes, you publish to add value. Here's how to make your presence strategic. Be consistent. Just as Coca-Cola doesn't change its message every week, your tone, topics, and purpose must remain coherent across all platforms. Be valuable. Share insights, lessons learned, frameworks, and stories that genuinely help your audience. Be conversational. Don't talk at people. Talk with them. Comment, engage, and show up regularly. Be authentic. People don't follow perfection. They follow progression. Show your growth journey, your learning moments, even your mistakes. Marketing author Anne Handley says in Everybody Writes, "Good content isn't about storytelling. It's about telling a true story well." That's exactly what great social branding is. Truth told consistently and courageously. Lead conversations, don't just join them. Thought leadership isn't about being the loudest. It's about being the most useful. Start conversations that spark thought and curiosity. Share perspectives that challenge assumptions. For example, if you're in HR, lead a discussion on the future of hybrid work. If you're in design, post about empathy in user experience. Become known for the questions you ask, not just the content you create. LinkedIn's creator program shows that professionals who engage thoughtfully, not just post frequently, build far stronger brands and communities. Grow your tribe, grow your impact. Consistency builds credibility, and credibility builds community. When your audience sees you show up with valuable insights, your influence compounds. Imagine your social brand as a garden. You plant seeds through your posts, nurture them through conversations, and watch them grow through engagement. Over time, that garden becomes an ecosystem where others flourish because of your contribution. And that's the beauty of going social. It's not about self-promotion, it's about collective elevation. Remember, your personal brand becomes truly powerful when it stops being about you and starts being about what you represent. Going social means sharing your mission, inviting others into your world, and creating conversations that move ideas forward. It's how you turn followers into fans, fans into collaborators, and collaborators into advocates. So don't just post. Participate. Don't just build a profile, build a platform, a soundboard. And most importantly, don't just chase followers. Build a tribe that believes in your cause. Because the strongest brands aren't built on algorithms. They're built on authentic connection, consistent contribution, and a shared sense of purpose. Sixth, reevaluate and adjust. Evolve your brand as you grow. Here's the truth. Your personal brand is not a monument. It's a living organism. It grows, adapts, and transforms as you do. The marketplace shifts, industries evolve, and so do you, which means that personal branding isn't a one-time campaign. It's a continuous act of alignment. Think of it like navigation. Even airplanes flying on autopilot adjust their course every few minutes to stay on track. Your personal brand works the same way. You need to recalibrate often to ensure that what the world perceives still matches who you've become. Relevance is the new currency. In today's fast-moving world, being current is more valuable than being brilliant once. Branding expert Marty Neumeier in The Brand Gap reminds us that strong brands live in the hearts and minds of people. That means perception is dynamic. What worked for you 2 years ago might now feel outdated, generic, or out of sync with your evolving self. To stay relevant, you must evolve your thought leadership, your content, and the value you bring to your audience. Develop your thought leadership strategy. The journey to becoming an authority in your field doesn't happen by accident. It's built by consistently creating and sharing insights. Dorie Clark, in her book Stand Out, says that authority comes from finding your breakthrough idea and building a following around it. So ask yourself, what's my core message right now? Has it evolved? How am I showing up as a voice worth listening to in my field? What value am I adding to the ongoing conversation in my industry? The foundation of thought leadership lies in educating, inspiring, and empowering others. It's not about showing how much you know, it's about showing how what you know helps others grow. Build a smart content strategy. To remain visible and relevant, you need to treat your content like a brand asset, not an afterthought. Create a content calendar that maps out how often you'll publish, weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly, what type of content you'll share, insights, stories, lessons, interviews, where you'll engage, LinkedIn, YouTube, podcasts, or community platforms. Consistency beats intensity. You don't need to post daily, you need to show up regularly and reliably. For example, author and entrepreneur James Clear didn't build his brand by flooding the internet. He built it by posting one thoughtful article per week for years. The result? Atomic Habits became a global bestseller. Your consistency signals credibility. Keep expanding your network and influence. Your personal brand grows not just through what you know, but who knows you. Networking isn't about collecting business cards. It's about cultivating meaningful, value-based relationships. Attend events, engage in online forums, collaborate on podcasts, or even start a mastermind group. Make your name synonymous with contribution. As leadership expert John Maxwell says, people buy into the leader before they buy into the vision. The more you engage in communities, online or offline, the stronger your social capital becomes. Seek feedback and fine-tune your brand. Even the best brands conduct regular market research, and you should too. Ask trusted colleagues, mentors, and friends. How would you describe my professional image? What 3 qualities stand out about me? What might be holding me back from my next level? That kind of feedback acts as your personal mirror. It shows you what's working and what's missing. For instance, if you're up for a managerial role but discover that others don't yet see you as a strong leader, don't see it as criticism. See it as data. You could take a leadership development course, volunteer to lead a cross-functional team, or even join a nonprofit board to demonstrate real-world leadership. This is how you close the brand gap, by taking action that reinforces the image you want to project. Evolve your brand story as you evolve yourself. Every new phase of your life adds a fresh layer to your story. Share it. Document your growth publicly. Talk about what you're learning, what you're struggling with, and how your perspective is changing. People don't connect with perfection, they connect with progress. Brené Brown's rise to global fame wasn't overnight. It evolved as she evolved, shifting from vulnerability research to leadership, belonging, and courage. She adjusted her message while staying true to her core. That's the hallmark of a timeless personal brand. Consistency of purpose with flexibility of expression. Think like a brand, act like a human. At the end of the day, personal branding isn't about logos, taglines, or even social media. It's about living your story out loud. Each of us is a walking brand, whether we realize it or not. The key is to make it intentional. So keep refining your story, adjusting your strategy, and expanding your impact. Educate, influence, and contribute value that lifts others. Because brands that give generously never fade, they compound. In Shakespeare's words, what's in a name? Well, when your name becomes a brand, it carries meaning, trust, and equity. It opens doors, commands respect, and creates legacy. Your personal brand is that legacy in motion, a blend of reputation, relevance, and resonance. So don't wait for someone else to define it. Think like a brand, act on your vision, and keep rewriting your story, one authentic chapter at a time.